Hello and thank you for watching episode 16 of TPAS Member Chat. I'm Rae Watson, the comms manager for TPAS, and today I'm going to be speaking to Angela Lockwood, the Chief Executive of North Star Housing Group. I'm going to be speaking to Angela about her recovery plans at North Star Housing Group and how they're working alongside residents to kickstart some more services. I'm going to be speaking to Angela about the Homes at the Heart campaign that the National Housing Federation have created and that TPAS England stand with, and what it means for North Star Housing Group and the residents there. And then finally, I'm going to be speaking to Angela about her commitment and passion for culture and citizenship and what it means to Angela. So stay with me here and thanks very much for watching. Hello, Angela, and welcome to TPAS Chat.
Hello, Rae, and thank you for inviting me onto it. It's a pleasure.
Oh, thanks for your time. So, my big opening question, Angela, is all about recovery plans. What are your plans? And how are you working in particular with forming and delivering them alongside residents?
Yeah, I mean, we're well into recovery, if that's the correct word to call it. But, so, we've got most of the services up and running. In fact, as of today, our offices are open for those staff who want to work in them. And throughout the whole process of recovery, we've been in lots of discussion and dialogue with a whole variety of tenants because, they're the test really in terms of how fast and how far we can go in terms of resuming services. So they've been an amazing resource actually to use throughout the whole process. So far, everything is starting to look okay, no big issues, and we're out and about letting properties, collecting rent and doing the things that you'd expect us to do, although not fully, but not far away from it.
And how do you mean by an amazing resource? Tell us more about how you've been working with residents.
Well, it would be easy, wouldn't it, in a crisis to go straight to action and forget to consult and liaise with people who could save you a huge amount of time and effort. And we've been careful not to do that. We've been careful to ensure that we maintain contact with a whole range of tenants so that we can check out with them whether the journey, the activity we're considering makes sense to them. And it can just stop you making big mistakes, so why wouldn't you use it? And you know what, it's free. And who knows best about resuming services and how far tenants are able to go than tenants themselves. So it'd be foolish not to use them. So brilliant resource.
Well, you'd think it would be a no-brainer, but TPAS have campaigned hard and for a long time for those reasons really that it's a no-brainer. So thanks for reiterating that point. So you've publicly supported the new Home at the Heart campaign led by National Housing Federation. And I've seen your Twitter, just recently, tweeting a lot about the campaign. What does it mean to you, and what will it mean for residents and staff at North Star?
Well, there's just nothing to dislike. It's about Homes at the Heart campaign. It goes to the core of social housing, and it goes to the core of the purpose of North Star, and what our raison d'etre is really. And I think the reason why we're supporting it is because we wouldn't we? Why wouldn't you? In any circumstance. However, during the crisis, during the pandemic, the house, the home, the place, the community has taken on a whole new emphasis, a whole new context, because it's become absolutely central to people's lives. If it wasn't central before, and I would argue it probably was, it's become even more central now. And the value of having a good place to live, a good, safe, secure place to live in a great environment is just so critical to people's health and well-being. And I'm very, very committed to try and do all I can to try and narrow the inequality gap. And for me, it starts with giving people a house, a great home and a great environment, and I'll do everything I can to enable that to happen. And post-pandemic, if we ever get post-pandemic, unless we're always going to be in a pandemic, and that's arguable, I want to do all I can to shift this on and to try and accelerate change for the people who matter, and those are people who are really our tenants.
Yeah, of course. And that's great point there about, and Alison Minman made a similar point to you in our TPAS chat about, the lockdown being a good test for what future homes should look like. As a space to kind of be in for a long time.
Yeah, and I think, we'd taken time out as well to review what new houses need to look like. Talking to tenants and communities about their experience of pandemic. We're going to get into even more dialogue. We've had some. What's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them, and what do we need to do more of or less of? And if they had a clean sheet of paper, what would a new home look like going forward? So that, we don't use I don't use my experience of a pandemic to shape the future of new housing. We use our tenants' experience of a pandemic, which could be very different from my experience. We have to be careful that we don't think we know the answers. We have to increasingly work out what the solutions might be with others and co-design. So we're actually pressing a bit of a pause button in terms of our standards going forward of new houses, and we're going to have some dialogue, and we're going to use that to inform the home of the future. And it's always a good thing to do. Why wouldn't you not do that? Because if you want to continually improve and continue to provide the houses that people want, then of course you should do it. But the pandemic has just flagged it up and emphasised it more so. So, and we're really looking forward to getting into that dialogue because we think we know some of the answers, but you know what? We might get surprised.
Yeah, and that's very true, and it's great that you're being brave to pause. That you're not thinking, well, let's keep moving on and getting more and more done. That you're stopping to listen. That's really great to hear.
Yeah, and listening to understand. So not going in with any preconceived ideas or views or think we know. Just go in to understand what it's like and to understand what people want of the future. That's really important. And to make sure that it informs, you do something with it.
Do you think then that, that not only all your services are going to be adapting and changing long term, but then the kind of very nature of who you are and what you're there to do then is going to be changing long term?
I don't know if the nature of what we're here to do will change, because I think we're always changing. We're a very relational organisation. Everything's based on people. We have a culture that works out of high levels of trust, and I think that's kept us strong through this process, and that will have to continue because relationships are of critical importance to North Star. But I do think that any good organisation would want to always be talking to people and tenants in particular and communities about the shape of the service that they want going forward. And whenever you get a catalyst like a pandemic, that's just, it's just a gift in terms of drawing a line and reframe and rethink and having different types of conversations. So we're going to capitalise on that, and we're going to, some of the services that we provided during the pandemic were born, they were provided because we felt like it was a value-based provision. So, we did all of the welfare calls that everyone else did, but actually not many people took us up on the welfare calls. So, I want to revisit that and work out, well, did we focus our attention in the right way? It felt like it was the right thing to do. Don't get me wrong, some tenants really valued it, but really, was that sensible use of our time, or could we have done something different if we'd spent more time talking to tenants? So I think what I'm saying is that I don't know what tenants want in terms of services of the future post-pandemic, because we haven't gotten into that discussion yet. But we are going to get into that discussion, and I want to really get under the skin of that and to shape the services with our tenants and communities, and just experiment a bit as well, play around with it a bit, because it's okay to do that as long as we've involved people and we're doing things with them and we're not doing things to them. So, we're not sitting in our ivory tower thinking that we know what to do, because that won't happen, not within North Star. So, what is it? What kind of, what's the community of the future? What's the service of the future? What's the new home of the future? And actually, what's the work of the future? Are all questions that I'm living with.
Mm-hmm. Big questions there.
Yeah.
Right, so we started off with that chat about the Homes at the Heart campaign. If you were in charge of creating a campaign to unite social housing sector on, or maybe not, just, you know, if you were kind of thinking of a campaign, what would it be and why?
I would do a campaign to get leadership at the top of our agenda in terms of the kind of leaders of the future that we want within social housing, because fundamentally everything comes from leadership. So if you've got leaders who are, you know, wanting to listen, to understand, who want to work things out, who see themselves as facilitators rather than tellers, who want to co-design and co-create, you'll find that actually the whole organisation is influenced by that kind of leadership, and the services will be influenced by that kind of leadership. So I wouldn't underestimate the importance of leadership within every sector, but I'm talking about social housing here. Mm-hmm. And so my campaign would be, let's get great leadership of the future that really wants to work with people, really wants to listen to understand, really wants to work out of high levels of trust. Because I think when you've got those characteristics in a leader, you get a real alchemy, a real magic happens, because you're open and you're alert and your antennae's good and you're connecting better and you're engaging well.
That sounds like a good campaign to pledge to and to live for. And this leads me to our final question, and something that you're known for, actually. You're known for your leadership style. You're known for liking dogs and beaches in the northeast, which we've already had a chat about. But you're also known for your, you know, loving of culture and citizenship and talking about that a lot. Can you just explain why this means a lot to you? Why do you talk about culture and citizenship?
Because I think the best organisations are a product of people and not systems, fundamentally. So I'm not saying that there's not a place for systems and processes within organisations. Of course there is. But actually organisations succeed because of the people who work in them. And if the people who work in organisations are trusted and have influence and have a voice and feel valued, they in turn will have the same approach to tenants and communities. And that's incredibly important to me, because working with people provides superb outcomes in my experience. And so the more we can talk, the more we can get into dialogue, and the more we can involve, the better the outcome for everybody. And you know, citizenship is important in that context, because I'm not sure that local democracy works. I'm not sure that politics is working for the majority. But what I have seen is that when local people have a sense of purpose and have a voice, they can change things. You know, it's a bit like what the famous quote from a woman called Margaret Mead, you know, the only thing that's ever changed the world is a small group of people. And I think that I believe that at its heart. So yeah, I believe in voice, I believe in influence for everybody, and I believe in involving as many in that as we can, however that happens. And I believe in power shifts. So that's why citizenship's important, and that's why culture is very important to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what a succinct answer right at the end of our chat. Thank you so much for your time, Angela. It's been brilliant chatting to you about all this.
Lovely. And thanks. And yes, I do have a gorgeous dog who's in his 14th year. And I love taking him on the beach. So you're right, and I do tweet a lot of those pictures. Oh, you've got to tell people what's your handle for Twitter. What are you on Twitter for us to go and have a look at your dog? Oh, Angela_NSHG. Well, I'll go and have a look now. Thanks so much again for your time. Thanks, Rae. Thanks for the opportunity to talk.